In our unit on geometry, today's lesson is on lines. If you look at the screen behind these titles, you'll notice there's all sorts of lines there, and some of them, in fact, are lines, and some of them are not lines. In today's lesson, we're going to try and figure out which of these are lines and which ones are not. Let's go to the next screen so we can talk about lines. Lines, very simply put, is a straight set of points that extends forever. What was that again? A straight set of points that extends forever. Well, I can see that this is straight, but I can also see that it doesn't go forever. But if you take a look at the ends of our line here, you'll notice that in mathematics, when we draw a line or we talk about a line, we're talking about something that is a little different than something you might do in art. But in mathematics, a line, a straight set of points that extends forever in both directions. And we put arrowheads on each end so that we can see that, yes, in fact, this line goes on forever, even though it looks like it stops here at the paper. In our minds, we know that, yes, that line goes on forever. Well, there's some other things that we work with besides lines. I'm just going to, first of all, write the word line here. We've talked about line. The next one we're talking about is called a line segment. And this is something that is probably a bit more familiar to us. And we use line segments all the time, although we don't call them that. A line segment, I'll go back to my line tool, and I'm going to change this just a little bit here. Let's see, a line segment is a part of a line that has end points. Well, notice that I've got these dots, or these end points. A line segment, and we could just take a part of this line right here, and this is a segment of the line. So we call it a line segment. Let me draw another line segment here. Let's see. Here's a line segment. It has a starting point and it has a stopping point. Unlike a regular line, regular lines we talked about, they don't have any stopping points. They keep on going forever. And line segments have a stopping point indicated with these dots on the end. I'll draw another line segment here. There's another line segment. Okay. Well, we've got a line segment, we've got a line, but now what would we have if we combined the arrow of one line, which goes on forever, and the dot of a line segment? Well, let's see, I'm going to change my line here so that I can do that. I'm going to have a dot on one side and an arrow on the other, and it looks like this. Oh, that's kind of interesting. It has a definite starting point right there, but in our minds, this line goes on forever. But it's not called a line because lines, of course, travel in both direction, and this one is traveling only in one direction. We need to have another name for this, and the name for this is a ray. Rays have a starting point but no stopping point, and they are also straight. Notice that line segments, lines, and rays are all straight. Let me give you an example. Here's one that's not straight. That's not a line. It's not a line segment, and it's not a ray. If it's not straight, it isn't any one of these things. Let's go back to that straight one. And here we have a line segment if we put the dots on the ends. And here we have a line if we put arrows. Now that one is a little crooked, isn't it? Let's go back and make that line straight. There's a straight line, and let's put arrowheads on the end. That's a line. Okay? So we have line, line segment, and ray. Let's go on to the next screen and see if there's some other things that we can do with these. If we have a line, I want to make sure that I have my lines with the two arrows on each end. I'm going to make a line this direction. Sometimes lines might cross over each other. If lines cross over each other, they are intersecting. And you know that if you've gone to an intersection, there's stop signs there. Well, that's two roads that cross over each other. Well, these are two lines that are intersecting, and they simply cross over each other. Lines can intersect in different ways. There's an intersection of lines. Here's another intersection of lines. And anytime two lines cross over each other, they intersect, or are called intersecting lines. Well, let's go and draw some other special kinds of intersecting lines. We're going to go to the next screen and draw some intersecting lines. And let's get our line tool maker here. We're going to have arrows on both ends. We have a line. This set of intersecting lines intersect in a special way. These intersecting lines, nothing special about those, but let's take a look at this first one here. If you could take a little piece of paper, let's say it's like a notebook piece of paper, and you know the corner of that paper is at a 90-degree angle, and you can set that piece of paper right here in that corner. If it fits perfectly in that corner, then what we say is that these lines are perpendicular. Perpendicular. So perpendicular. Perpendicular lines. These are 90-degree angles right here. All these places where these two lines intersect. These are 90-degree angles, and if you can take that piece of paper and set it in the corner there and it matches perfectly, that is considered perpendicular lines. These are perpendicular intersections, and these are just lines that are intersecting. Intersecting lines, and we have some special ones called perpendicular lines. Here's another line. And here's a line. And the interesting thing about these two lines is that they don't look on this screen like they're going to intersect. But the thing about lines, remember, of course, on the ends, is that they go on forever. We've got these arrowheads to indicate that. And what would happen to these ends of these lines if they went on forever? Well, eventually, these two lines somewhere in the distance, probably not on this screen, but somewhere in the distance, are going to intersect. Some lines will intersect eventually. However, there are another set of lines that travel side by side, and they are perfectly a distance apart, perfect distance apart from the beginning to the end. This distance here at the beginning of this line from here to here is the same as this distance down here, if I had drawn it perfectly. Now, I might be off just a little bit, but if I had drawn it perfectly, they'd be the same distance on both ends, and then those two lines would never intersect. If two lines never intersect, they are called parallel lines. Let's see, parallel, P-A-R-A-L-L-E-L, parallel. These lines are called parallel lines. On this screen, you'll see that we have a dot background, and there is one line that's been given to us. If we were asked to draw a line parallel to that one, I'm going to use my marker for this one and do a freehand line. And I've been given this top line, so I'm going to draw a line that's parallel to it. Well, I'm going to choose a set of dots, one set of dots away. I'm going to just draw right here. And I'm using my hand. You could use a ruler, of course, to do this. If I do that on the smartboard, it'll kind of throw things out of whack, but I'll just use my hand right here. And this line is parallel to the line that was given. So that's a parallel line. But what if they asked for an intersecting line? Well, let's see what that would be like. On this screen, I've got a line drawn, and this one goes from top to bottom. And now I'm going to, again, use my hand, freehand draw a line that intersects. Well, let's see. I could draw a perpendicular line, but I'm going to draw a line that intersects. I'm going to use some dots that go at an angle. and this line intersects or crosses over the first line. These two lines are called intersecting lines. Well, let's go to another screen and do another set of dots. On this dot background, you'll see we have another line there, but we want to make one that's perpendicular to this line. Remember, you have to be able to put a little piece of paper in the corner where the lines intersect, and it needs to fit there perfectly. Well, I'm going to use this row of dots right here. I'm going to draw a line that is perpendicular to this line. And with the line, I have arrows on the end. And notice that in the place where the two lines intersect, if I set a piece of paper right in there, it meets at a 90-degree angle. Let's go to the lesson now for today on page 111, the workbook page, and take a look at the things that we've talked about today. We have talked about 6 different things. Our discussion started with the word lines, but we talked about what a line is, and we know that a line has arrows for endpoints. It has no stopping spot. We've talked about line segments that have dots on either end, indicating a starting and stopping point. We've talked about ray, which has a starting point and no end point. We've talked about parallel lines that travel side by side and never cross each other. We've talked about intersecting lines, lines that do cross at a point, and we've talked about lines that intersect at a particular way, and they are perpendicular, and you'll notice that little piece of paper that's been wedged in there indicating a 90-degree crossing of those intersecting lines. Let's take a look at the instructions. It says to name each. Well, we have 8 items here to name, 1 through 8, and you have to choose a word here, or a set of words. Is it a line? Is it a line segment? Is it a ray? Or is it none of these? Okay. I would look particularly at number 4 and number 6. They have a beginning point and no end point. And well, I'll tell you what, it's not this one. So maybe that'll be a clue to you what number 4 and number 6 are. Now let's take a look at number 9 through 11. And this is where the dot paper comes in handy. And you're asked to draw a line that's parallel to the given line, a line that intersects the line that's given, or draw a line that is perpendicular to this line. Good luck with your homework. I'm looking very forward to seeing how well you've handled this first lesson in geometry on lines.